Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Gold Patch Notes Rundown. This is patch 9.18, coming out on September 10th, 2019. I'm gonna skip the whole spiel about me being right and you guys being wrong when arguing, mostly because no one comments, no one views. So we're just going to dive right into the notes. Let's see. So, quick note that this is the patch before World's patch. So next one, we should see some last minute changes. I'm not expecting much out of next one. This one might be pretty big though. New skins. Okay, into the notes themselves. Champions. Atrox. Passive heals for less against minions. Q damage to minions reduced and flattened. Still highly valued in pro play. Taking a... I don't care about that. Okay, heals for 25% of the damage dealt when stabbing a minion. Okay, so I can't remember what his actual passive is. I think it's just all... Oh no, it's an empowered auto. That's right. Okay, so the empowered auto now heals for only 25% instead of full health. So he'll want to actually damage the enemy laner for that healing. And then damage to minions, instead of 50 to 40%, it's just, or 50 to 100%, it's 40% at all levels. So his wave clear is going to be a lot less. Given that I saw him a lot in LCS this past weekend, and he could clear waves basically with 2 casts of Q, just completely clear it. Honestly, that's a good change. It's going to slow down his clear, and it's going to make him have to search for other avenues to get ahead. So overall, this is going to weaken him a lot, 1, because he can't heal as safely, and 2, because he can't clear as quickly. So expect a lot less Atrox. Akali, R cooldown increased early, R1 stun removed, thank god, R2 base maximum damage decreased early. So, removed the R1 stun, so she no longer has that half-second stun that she could use to interrupt stuff like teleport, or like Shen ultimate, or any other channeled abilities. So she doesn't have any hard CC, that is something to remember now. And then her maximum damage, so late it's the same, early though, that flat damage is down by quite a bit, 60 damage early. At level 6 she's not going to have a lot of AP to match that, so I like that change. And then cooldown goes up by a lot, 120 to 160, holy crap. Yeah, she's going to lose a lot of early power. I feel like that's going to be a bit extreme. They're going to tone that back. Mark my words, that's getting toned back in a future patch. But just like Atrox, she's going to be seeing a bit less, simply because of how long that cooldown is. That's extremely long, and it really reduces her ability to try to fight post 6. Like, at 6 you have to be careful, but once she's used it, you've got this massive window of opportunity. Annie, giving Annie more pep in her step. Oh yeah. E now grants decaying movement speed, damage reduction decreased, cooldown increased. I saw these changes and I'm not sure how I like them. Or at least I saw them on PvE, I should say. Movement speed. So now you gain... Okay, so the movement speed scales per level, so you probably won't be taking this until level 3, so at that point it's going to be 29.5%, basically 30%, and it decays over 1.5 seconds. Damage reduction, they cut it by a lot, going from 16 to 40% down to 10 to 22%, like it's not much. And then the cooldown is increased by a lot, so you can't use it to charge your passive. I haven't seen a lot of Annie before, or I shouldn't say before this, but she's just not played much. You know, even LS doesn't think that she's great. So this might be a change that she needs, because as far as I know, you don't really use your E for the damage reduction a lot. I don't play much Annie, so I'm not certain about that. But I saw their reasoning on this change is that it lets her get into position for plays more easily. She doesn't have to rely on stuff like Flash R or Flash W. She can now cast her E and run somebody down and stun them with R, W, Q, any of those. So, honestly, this could bring her back just because it gives her more offensive potential, as well as she can use that as an escape tool in a way. So, honestly, after talking it over with you guys, I kind of like this change. I like it. Aurelion Soul, following up on the 9.17 changes, you mean like nerf, gutting him, all of that? Now that his early laning phase has more counterplay. So they brought his base health stat up. Basically means he can take an extra auto attack, or extra 2, counting in any armor, at level 1. So, slightly harder to kill, but honestly, it's just going to make him harder to poke out, is all. I don't see it really... It strengthens him, but it doesn't bring him back. Caitlyn, 80 goes up by 2. Again, that's going to get regened in like 5 seconds. So, kind of a placebo. It's going to help with last hitting at best. Previous buffs didn't go as far as we wanted. So they decreased the cost of his W, and the stun duration was increased. So, the cost goes down by 20 at each level, and the stun goes up by a half second. That's a big change, especially, I know that Jungle Echo takes W first, because of the stun and the passive, where you get bonus damage on low health targets. And then the stun duration means his clear is going to be a lot healthier. So this is a massive buff for early game Echo Jungle. And then I don't know how well it changes lane Echo. It means that you have to avoid that stun even more, and it's lower risk, higher reward for him. So overall, Echo's definitely going to be a lot more meta now. Evelynn, R empowered damage amplifier and max empowered damage increased. R, last caress. So they went from 100% to 140% if you're below 30% max HP. And then the empowered damage... Is that just the damage with... I'll have to look into that. I think that might be max damage against people. Maybe not. Power damage amplifier. Yeah, okay, so that's just saying, like, this is what the max damage is after that multiplier, I think. 40% higher than... No? Actually, yeah, that makes sense. So say it base is 125, so then 40% of that is 50. And so that makes sense. Okay, never mind. Math works out. That's fine. Personally, I haven't seen much Evelynn. I counter her pretty hard with Skarner, so I'm not too worried about the matchup, but I am worried about, like, bot lane, especially since there's still a mix of healer supports in there with all the different tank supports. So, this means that, especially post 6, she is absolutely deadly against squishy targets, because she'll burst them down to low health and then cast R and almost get an execute off of that. So, I don't know if that'll bring her back necessarily. I don't know if she's actually been out of the meta that badly that she needs these buffs. But I expect to see more Evelynn because of that. Jhin, same case as Caitlyn. This is going to get regened in about 5 seconds, so this is going to help with last hitting, although Jhin doesn't really need help with that, especially with last shot, or fourth shot. Again, a bit of a placebo buff. I don't see it really helping with bullying much. Oh, I guess taking his passive into account, maybe, because that might be more than 280 at level 1. I'm not entirely certain how his passive factors into that, but I still don't think that's going to bring him into dominance. Kai'Sa, reducing Kai'Sa E bonus attack speed decreased later. So basically, late when she casts her E, she gets less attack speed. That's not the change that I think she needs in order to stop being such a pick ban champion, because I still see her banned in solo queue, and I see her pick banned in LCS a lot. They need to add a per target cooldown to her passive. Jarvan 4, he has a per target cooldown. and his passive does less damage, and he's the only one who can proc it. Granted, his is just an auto attack on a hit thing, but Kai'Sa's allies can stack her passive, and then she does the last hit, and it deals all that extra damage. You know, it's something like 15% missing HP or something. It's an insane amount of damage, and so she shreds tank space off of it. If they cut that down, it then makes it so that she's no longer such a strong anti-tank champion. She has a weakness, and you can play tank champs into her, and there's counterplay there. Or counter picks available to you there. This I see maybe hurting her late game, but by then she'll be strong enough that it won't be a big deal. She'll be... I want to say that you max E last, so she's going to be staying at the same values, or close to the same values for most of the game. Kayle, E base passive damage increase. So her E, which is... Q is the... buffing E passive damage to make your bet. Oh, no. Okay, so E, it's passive, or... Yeah, passively it gives free magic damage on her auto attacks. So, makes her last hitting, especially early, easier, before she gets any stats. Makes her trading a little bit better. You know, DPS is very slightly higher. That's... Honestly, I think this is going to be another placebo, though. It makes her last hits better, but if you need that 5 damage per hit... Actually, no, depending on how quickly she's hitting, how much she's harassing, that could stack up. That could stack up faster than that 280 that the others are getting. I don't see this being too big of a deal, but I think in the right trades it could make a difference. Still very light nerf, or buff, wow, not nerf. We'll see. I don't know how to feel about that. Lee Sin, base health and 80 increased R damage increase. I actually discussed this with somebody. They're rounding out his numbers, and then they're adding 25 damage to his R. If that 25 damage was going to kill you, the next minion auto was going to get you, or something like that. Like, it's not enough of a change to bring him back into dominance. It's enough of a change for people to notice him and start picking him and possibly banning him more. Bringing him up in the ranks. The 25 damage, it's flat. It's not amplified by anything. It's not increased anywhere. So, again, I've been using this a lot for this patch, but this one's almost another placebo. It just does not... it doesn't really seem to be a big deal, in my opinion. Misfortune, E slow increased early. From 28% to 40%. Percentage-wise, that's a pretty decent upgrade. It means trading her with her, she'll be able to escape more easily, or she'll be able to run you down more easily. Especially if she has passive, or she casts W for her speed passive. So, honestly, I think just combined with her W, that's a decent change. So it means you have to be more careful about trading with her when you know that she has it up, or when you know that she has the mana for it. If she's just used it, or if she's low mana, you don't have to worry about this as before. But if she has it up, it means that it's a lot less safe for you to trade with her. So I see this actually being somewhat of a good buff, especially since I don't think she maxes E first. I want to say it's Q first. I don't know where Q or W and E stand, but she's going to be at that 40% for quite a bit. So that brings her at least to like level 8 status with that. Maybe level, is it 13? Level 14 status with it. Anyway, Nunu Willump. Base stats decreased, E slow now scales. Okay, so health growth. This is another one that I discussed with somebody while I was on the PvE. So 8 times 17 levels means 136 max HP that he loses. If he takes Cinder Hulk, then that's another, let's see, he basically loses like 155 health. He loses a Ruby Crystal. at level 18. At which point, that 150 is not going to be the big deal. He should have the resistances. He should have health items that take over for that. It's actually 150 is enough for you to make a difference between living and dying in a lot of situations, especially with Nunu with his Q. I think he gets more healing when he's low health. I'll have to double check on that. So that actually might be more significant than I thought. Armor growth, so 17 levels times half a point per level. 8.5 armor, that's less than a cloth armor. Again, this isn't something I'd worry about. Same mana here, rounding that out. Mana regen, rounding that out. These two don't matter. This one might very slightly matter into comps with like a single AD champion where you're not going to build more armor as fast. This one's going to matter a little bit because it just means that, he'll die within that next auto more likely. And then Snowball Barrage. This one's actually more significant than I thought. I didn't realize you take E early for the slow. You land the knock-up, and then you take E, and you use that slow to guarantee the snare, and then the kill after that. So the fact that it's down to 30% at rank 1, especially when you don't max E until last, apparently, that's a pretty significant nerf to him. So with the health nerf and then this nerf, his early game is affected by this, his late game is affected by this a little bit, so expect to see a bit less than you knew. His clear's still going to be healthy, his ganks are going to be slightly worse. Okay, Teemo, he got lots of changes. Q and W quality of life changes, very descriptive. R mushroom adjustments with more charges and infinite bounce. Okay. Q, blinded targets will now see a green light around their screen when they're affected by Teemo's Q. I like that. That makes it so that you know when you can or cannot auto him, when you can or cannot trade with him. Very good change in my opinion. Move Quick. Move Quick's ability icon will now have a bar above it to show it its active duration. Okay, so when you cast the ability, you'll see a little bar over it on your hot bar, I guess. I don't know if that's the right term for it. So you'll know whether or not it's going. Okay. So yeah, Q and W quality of life changes. This one's quality of life for enemies. And this one's quality of life for Teemo. R Noxus Trap. Mushrooms will now trigger more responsively, especially on enemies dashing through them quickly. Okay, Rift Color no longer triggers mushrooms when it's not in combat. Oh, that's a big buff. That's a massive buff, because that means he can put shrooms all over the river, and the enemy jungler now has to be careful about that. The enemy jungler has to watch it. You have to get Sweeper early against Teemo now. Once he hits 6, you have to have Sweeper if you want to be on the top side of the rift, because he's going to litter the river with shrooms. Mushrooms can now bounce once off of each other to infinitely, so if he does it right, he doesn't even have to leave lane to get shrooms all the way down river. He places one at the entrance, bounces, and then just keeps bouncing them in a line all the way down river. That's a little terrifying. And then max charges. This is something they've needed to do for a while. So instead of holding 3 at once, he can now hold 3, 4, 5. Definitely makes his late game stronger. Satan just got a lot stronger, especially with this and this combined for laning phase. And then obviously this is going to make it so that he's able to get... When he has downtime, he's not as harmed as much by not placing mushrooms, because he can place 5 at once, let it charge up while he's doing something else, 5 at once kind of thing. He has a longer downtime between when he has to place them for max efficiency. So yeah, big buffs to Teemo in my opinion. Warwick, W now grants attack speed, bonus attack speed against blood-hunted enemies. Okay, bug fix. Yeah, that's a major buff, just because if he was supposed to get that and he wasn't, that was a big nerf to him, but now that he's actually going to get attack speed against you. So Blood Hunted means either you're low health, or he's used his W and you were the closest enemy. So, that is something to watch out for. I don't know if the passive applies when his W is on cooldown. I can't remember that. At the highest levels of play, base armor decreased, R cool. Oh gosh. What have I done? Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. At the highest levels of play, what am I doing? This. Base armor decreased, R cooldown increased. Okay, so that means poking her in lane is going to be slightly more effective, instead of... Well, no, not really. Because with that little armor, 25 armor means she takes 80% of the damage from physical damage sources. 128 means she's going to take, like, 79%. So it's literally a 1% damage increase. Not much. And that's base, by the way. Armor growth is the same. And then cooldown went up by 20 seconds at each rank. I like that a lot, simply because it's infuriating to have to play around. Because it's an excellent escape tool. And as I said, Xayah is an extremely safe and reliable choice. Safety in the early game, just because if she's getting ganked, if you're gonna CC her, if you're hitting her with anything targeted, she casts her R, and she gets out of it for free, and you've burned your critical cooldowns. So I like that they've increased that, so she has to play around that cooldown a bit more. 160 is the same as Akali's R now. Again, that might end up being a bit harsh. I would be surprised if they didn't, next patch, bump this down by 10 and this down by 20, so that it's late game is the same. We'll see. Zoe, okay. Her passive damage goes up by 6 per level, basically. Okay, at level 1 it's 6, and at level 18 it's 6. But then it's in between where it goes up and down by different numbers. Like this one's up by 8, 8, 8. I'm just trying to see where it's no longer up by 8, but not worth counting. So basically, it means that her autos are slightly better. Honestly, I don't like this concept in general. Right? She is a late game, one-shot burst champion. I don't want to say assassin, but one-shot mage. She is a burst mage. Late game, she's terrifying, which means you have to be able to punish her early, and I'm okay with having a weaker than intended early phase, because if opponents don't take advantage of that and don't punish it, she becomes a monster late game, and you're playing 4v5 because you don't have an ADC or support. Not a change I support, even though it's a minor change. It's this concept of the change that I don't like, and I really hope they don't keep moving in that direction. So that's it for champion changes. Let's see, video accessibility options. Okay, enable screen shake. Okay. Visual sliders. Oh yeah, you can change color level, gamma, brightness, and contrast of games. So I can see some people tweaking that. That could actually end up giving a significant buff to, I shouldn't say buff, a bonus to people who can pay attention to those kinds of things. We'll see how that ends up affecting the game. Bug fixes, I'm going to let you guys go through those on your own. I'm not going through all of those. And then upcoming skins. So Star Guardian Neeko, and the Prestige. Of course, there's Prestige. Star Guardian Xayah and Rakan, and Star Guardian Zoe. So that just looks kind of creepy. I don't like that. Also, just this whole thing just is weird. I like the little octopus, but the rest of it just, there's something about it that's off. These two are going to be interesting to see how they play into it. I like their little birds. And then oh yeah, Nico gets the frog, first of all, that's great. Second, they didn't take the community suggestions. There's some fan art or fan edits to this that you can find on Reddit, and you should definitely look those up because her face just has an unnatural quality to it, and they've edited it by first changing the mouth, and second they've made the eyebrows more natural, and they've played with the eyes a little bit because the angle's a bit off. But I'll leave that for you guys to look up as homework. And then chromas for these ones. What does Zoe get? I guess those two are supposed to share color palettes, I guess, but still seems stupid that Zoe gets freaking 9 chromas. Or I guess that's probably base and then chromas. So 8 chromas, whereas these guys get 3 each. Seems a little ridiculous to me. But, alright. Well, that's the 9.18 patch notes. Please tell me what you think. I know I use the words placebo buff a lot, or placebo nerf a lot this patch. I'm hoping to get out of that habit. But if you have any other constructive criticism, please go ahead and let me know. And I'll definitely take it into consideration. But until next time, have fun out on the Rift.